Hi, everyone. Welcome to Microsoft Build. In this session, we will dive deeper in how to use external identities to build digital experiences for any user. I'm Josh Douglas, a program manager in the Microsoft Identity team who focuses on our external identities features and making it easier for customers to connect with users outside of their organization.
And hi, I'm Neha Goyal. I'm a program manager on Microsoft Identity Platform team. My areas of expertise are authentication libraries and SDK, ADAL, and MSAL.
Today, we want you to take away from this session how you can leverage the Microsoft Identity Platform to enable Azure Active Directory external identities, what the features are and what's possible in your apps with external identities and SelfService On Up, and finally, how you can leave this session and get started with testing the external identities capabilities. So let me ask a question. How many of you have built applications that need to support multiple types of identities? With external identities, we are enabling you to build applications that support any type of user, whether employees, partners, or customers, by integrating once with the Microsoft Identity Platform. Once integrated, you can customize those experiences to support external identities without having to change anything in your code. But first, Neha, could you tell us a little bit about the Microsoft Identity Platform and why we should use it?
Sure, Josh. So some of you might already be familiar with Microsoft Identity Platform. For those who do not, Microsoft Identity Platform enables you to integrate authentication in your app. It allows you to build applications that targets organizational account, also known as AAD accounts, as well as Microsoft personal accounts such as Outlook.com. We have here for you one portal to register all your applications that sign in any Microsoft identity. We have vast set of MSAL libraries and SDKs that enables your users to sign in for using AAD accounts. Microsoft personal accounts, including social identities using products like Azure AD B2C. With easy app registration experience and family of open source authentication libraries, all your existing application and APIs are not left behind. We also have endpoints that is standard compliant, which lets you sign in users and allows capability with third-party libraries. Last year, we made a big announcement during Build and made a promise of making the identity and enabling authentication in your app easy for you. Hearing our customers' feedback and keeping our promise, we are taking it a step further. We are really unifying the developer experience by bringing in social identities capability into Azure Active Directory. It is even easier for you to develop your app for users using not just AAD accounts and personal accounts, but also lets you extend your same existing application to social identity providers like Google and Facebook within Azure Active Directory. Having said that, Josh would take you on a tour of this amazing external identity experience I had been talking about so far. Josh, back to you.
Thanks, Neha. As we heard, the Microsoft Identity Platform empowers you to build apps that can reach any user. With external identities, we're making that even easier. So you can build apps that cover all of your use cases, whether they are apps for your employees, customers, or partners. With the external identity self-service sign-up solution, a part of the Microsoft Identity Platform, our long-term vision is to empower users to bring their own identity to thousands of applications, starting with the ones that you're building yourself. External identities encompasses scenarios for your apps that include reaching users outside of your organization, whether it is customers or partners that you're building for. We have learned from you that being able to build applications that easily enable users to bring their own identities and have customized sign-up flows is a very important scenario. And because of those learnings, we're bringing some new capabilities into Azure AD. Today, we're announcing the public preview for you to be able to connect with external users for applications that you're building in Azure Active Directory. Some of the things that you'll be able to do with this public preview are integrate with social identity providers like Google and Facebook, collect more information about users in your apps as they sign up using custom user attributes, use API connectors to call web APIs during the authentication flow, and finally, you'll be able to use user flows to create customized sign-up experiences for your apps that include all of the things listed above. The last thing to note is all of this is built on top of the Graph API. So you'll be able to leverage rich data about your users in your applications using Graph. Now, let's show you what's possible with the Microsoft Identity Platform and external identities. In this demo, we will show an app that has been built for Woodgrove Groceries using the External Identities SelfService On Up capabilities. This app is used to reach Woodgrove's users, and they've recently built an inventory application for their partners. Woodgrove has used the features previously mentioned, so that way they're leveraging external identities to extend their application beyond their organization. They've integrated with Google and Facebook as identity providers. They've collected information about users signing up using custom attributes specific to Woodgrove, and they've integrated with their custom approval system using API connectors. All of this is made possible for Woodgrove using user flows for their application. In this demo, I'll be Brandon, a new partner to Woodgrove Groceries. Brandon supplies Woodgrove with fruits and vegetables, and he needs to be able to monitor the inventory of their products so he can ensure their supply stays stocked. Brandon's a local farmer, and he uses his Facebook account on his day-to-day to stay in touch with his customers. As he goes through and signs up to the inventory application for Woodgrove, he will use that Facebook account. So here he is at the Woodgrove sign-in page, and he can see there's a spot on the page for partners. He knows he's in the right spot, so he's going to go ahead and choose to request your supplier account. This brings him to the Woodgrove login page. He knows he's in the right spot because he can see that the background is customized to Woodgrove's branding. He also sees on the page there's an option for no account, create one. Since he's here to sign up for a new account, he goes ahead and selects the create one option. This brings him to a page where he can go through the sign-up process. He was told he'd be able to sign up with Facebook, and he sees that that's an option, so he's going to go ahead and select Sign In with Facebook. When he selects that, it brings him over to the Facebook page. You notice that there was no sign-in prompt since Brandon was already signed into his Facebook account. On this screen, you can see that Brandon has to consent to allow Woodgrove to access his data. I'm going to go ahead and select Continue as Brandon. And this is going to redirect me back to the Woodgrove page. On this page, Woodgrove is asking to collect a little bit more information about me. You can see that my name is already populated as Facebook shared that data back with Woodgrove. I'm going to go ahead and enter my supplier name and supplier ID, which are two things that Woodgrove collects as part of the sign-up process. On this page, you notice that I'm notified that my account is pending the approval of an administrator. Woodgrove has informed me that there's an approval process I must go through in order to access my partner account and gain access to their application. After some time, I notice that I get an email from Woodgrove that tells me that I've been approved as a partner. They give me a link in the email that I can select. So I go ahead and select this link, which brings me back to the Woodgrove page. Now that I'm here, I choose to sign in again using my newly provisioned account that Woodgrove created for me. I select sign-in options, sign in with Facebook, and again, get single sign-on to the Woodgrove application since I was already signed in with my Facebook account. I also select to stay signed in. Here I am in the Woodgrove application now. You can see that they recognize me as a partner and I'm fully authenticated. I can also now go ahead and view their inventory so I can make sure that Woodgrove contains a solid supply of my product. These are just some of the experiences that you can build with the Microsoft Identity Platform and external identities. With external identities, we fully empower you to create customized sign-up flows for your partners on applications that you're building. So when you need to be able to connect with users outside of your organization and collaborate with them, this is a very powerful way to be able to do that and offer a customized sign-up flow that partners can go through and gain access to your application. Now that we've seen what's possible for your end users when you build apps with the Microsoft Identity Platform and external identities, let's take a look at how you can build applications and start testing these features. In this next demo, we'll go through and learn how to enable external identities self-service sign-up in our apps. We'll first go through and enable the feature in our Azure AD tenant. We'll configure some social identity providers so that way we can leverage those and allow social identities to sign up to our application. Neha will then take us through creating an app registration and setting up a single page app using the quick start. And finally, she'll create a user flow that creates the customized sign-up experience for external users in her application. In this demo, we're going to go ahead and get our tenant set up so that way we can support the External Identities self-service sign-up feature for our application. So that way it will be available when Neha goes through and configures the sample app and enables self-service sign-up. The first thing we'll do is come to external collaboration settings, where I need to enable guest self-service sign-up via user flows. This is the control that enables all of the self-service sign-up features and allows your apps to be able to use them. This is by default disabled, but we'll go ahead and enable it via API. The other thing we need to do is set up our social identity providers. We need to make a connection with Google and Facebook, which will allow our applications to support users who have those identities and enable them to sign up. So let's jump over to Graph Explorer. Here I am in Graph Explorer, and you can see I've gone ahead and run a GET request for the authentication flows policy. This is the policy that sits underneath our self-service sign-up setting that we showed at the tenant level. By default, it's disabled. As you can see, is enabled is set to false. But let's go ahead and enable it. So I changed this to a patch request, and I need to copy over some information to include in the request body. I paste that information in, and all I'm doing is changing is enabled to true. I run that query, and you can see we get a 204 no content response back, which is good. I'm going to change this to a GET again, which we run, and now we can see that is enabled is set to true. This is the API that we'll use to configure this setting, and you'll be able to use as well. The next API we need to run is the Identity Providers API. So I'll update the path that I'm calling, and I'm going to change GET to post. I'll go ahead and copy the information that I need for this API call, and you can see that we need a name, a type, a client ID, and client secret. The client ID and client secret I gained from the Google Developer Console, which you'll also need to do for Facebook as well. So we'll go ahead and run this query, and that will configure Google for us. We'll now have a connection with Google. Let me go ahead and copy the same information for Facebook. Once I copy that information and paste it in the body, I'll run this query again. And you can see in the response that we get back that Facebook is now set up. We can see the ID is Facebook OAuth, and you can see that it shows my client ID in a protected version of my client secret. Now that we've set up our Azure AD tenant to support social identities and turned on the feature for self-service sign-up, I'll hand it over to Neha so she can create the sample application and enable sign-up on it.
Thanks, Josh. In this demo, I'm going to showcase how you can create an application from scratch or extend your existing application to enable sign-in for social identities like Google and Facebook and use Microsoft Graph APIs to get user information. So let's get started and build an app. In order to enable sign-in experience using Microsoft Identity Platform, you need to register your application first. Here I'm going to show you how to register and configure an application in Azure Portal. First, you need to log in to Azure Portal. I have already logged in for this demo. And here I'm going to go to Azure Active Directory. On your left-hand side, you'll see a bunch of options, and we need to go to App Registrations Plate here. Now, here you can see your existing applications which you might have already registered, and I'm going to register a new application. Now, on this page, you can see three major options. The first is name, which is basically the name of the app that your end user will see when they sign into the application. I'm going to name my application as demo application. The second option is supported account types, which is who can sign into your app. So first option is all of the users in your organization. The second option is mainly about all of the users in any organization. Third option is the most vast, where it is about app signing in any Microsoft identity, whether personal, work, or school accounts. And for this demo, I'm going to go with the first option, accounts in the organization directory only. And the third and last option we have is platform configuration. This means what kind of platform are you going to develop your application for? It is an optional configuration, but if you do select a platform, we will guide you through the configuration steps to help you to get up and running on that platform. For now, I'm going to leave it as is and hit the register button to register our app. So we just registered our application, and now I will show you how you can download a sample using the Quick Start and get an application running in a few minutes. Our Quick Start experience lets you set up your sample app in seconds without requiring any changes to your code. Following this Quick Start, I'm going to create a single page JavaScript application. You can see the list of the other platforms quick starts we have, and you can follow any of the quick starts depending on your requirement. For this demo, I'm going with the JavaScript single page application. On this page, you can see a few sections. The first one is prerequisites. Before you move forward with app development, you need to make sure you have Azure subscription and IDE like VS Code are installed on your machine. The next option is to configure your application. To make the code sample in this quick start work, you need to first configure it. The Make These Changes for Me button makes it simple to configure your application at the time of registration. It also lets you know what changes it is going to make. So let's check it out. Here on this page, you can see two options, values to be added. The values to be added is redirect URIs. The redirect URI is nothing but an allow list of a safe URL where an access token can be sent. You don't want to be sending an access token where it can be used to access user data by any malicious app. The second option, values to be modified, is to enable the implicit grant. This is the authentication flow we are going to use to develop the SPA application. So when I click on Make Updates, it shows me a green check letting me know that my app registration is ready to go. So this app registration is now configured with necessary settings to run this app. Next, we provide a download the code sample button. This button is to download a working sample, which is already pre-configured with all the settings matching my app registration. This means no more copy pasting values from Azure portal into my application. And below on this page, you can find more information how the sample works and dive deep and come back later to understand how the sample app is actually designed. Now, so far in this demo, we have registered a single page app and downloaded the sample which was pre-configured using quick starts. Awesome. Now that we have registered the app, I want to show you guys how the sample app works. So I'm using VS Code here, and this is our sample app. So I'm going to go to authconfig.js. This is the file which contains code for basic app configuration. And this might look familiar to you guys. These are some of the values we configured using Portal a few minutes ago. Client ID is the unique identifier for your application, which was generated at the application registration time in the portal. Authority is the authentication endpoint, which is used to authenticate your app. And the redirect URI, you can see the value we configured using the quick start. So this is exactly what I was talking about. We download the app with the custom configuration already done using quick start. This basically saves so much time for you to get a test app running end to end. The next thing I want to show you is how you can access user data in your application using Microsoft Graph. And for that, I'm going to go to graphconfig.js. And this is actually the Microsoft Graph endpoint. So by accessing user data, I mean, let's take a simple scenario where once your partners are logged in, you want to show them their basic user profile with some user information like first name, last name, phone number, email, etc. The Microsoft Graph API offers a single endpoint, which we can see here is the graph.microsoft.com. This is also called as GraphMe endpoint. It gives you access to rich user-centric data. Using this one single endpoint, you get access to all of your user data exposed as resource of Microsoft 365. So how would you acquire an access token for Microsoft Graph? To know that, let's go to authpub.js. In order to call Microsoft Graph or any protected API, you will need an access token. In all of our samples, you will find one simple pattern, which is acquiring the token silently. And if that fails, trying to get the token interactively by using the function acquire token pop-up. This pattern of trying the token silently first will ensure we get the best single sign-on experience. So in a nutshell, I showed how this application is configured and how to acquire an access token to call Microsoft Graph. So we just saw how the sample app is designed. Great. We got our sample app ready by just following a few simple steps. Now comes the most exciting part. We will see how you can extend this application to support external identities like Google or Facebook, and that too without doing any changes further in your app. And by just doing a few simple configuration changes on Azure portal. So for that, let's go back to the Azure portal. So here we are back in Azure portal, signed into my Azure AD tenant where I previously registered my app. To enable external identities feature, first you need to navigate to the external identities plate. On your left, you can see the external identities plate here. And this is the first page you're seeing. It is actually a getting started tutorial. This is the more elaborate version of this demo. You can always come back to this page and learn more on how to customize your experience in the app even further. So let's just move forward with our next step here. The first thing you will need to make sure are some of the tenant-wide settings are enabled in order to make this feature working for your app. For that, you need to go to the external collaboration setting, which you can find on your left here. So you're seeing a bunch of settings here, which are by default enabled. The most important which we are looking at is the enable guest self-service sign up via user flow. If this setting is not enabled, the external identity feature would not work for your application. So in order to get that working, you need to first enable this. So as we already know that Josh enabled this setting programmatically for this tenant, so it is turned to yes here, but you can always come back on the portal and just enable it directly from the portal itself. By default, it should be no, and then you can come and you can just turn it to yes and you're good to go. So we saw how to enable self-service sign-up flow for your tenant. Once we enable this, we are moving to our next step, which is the most important and I'm really excited about is how we can configure the external identities provider like Google and Facebook for this tenant to later use in your application. For that, we need to go to the All Identity Providers plate. Here we have already configured the Facebook and Google for the purpose of this demo. As you already saw, Josh configured this IDPs programmatically and registered with Facebook and Google to gain a client ID and secret to enable the user federation. But you can always come to the portal too and just enable it directly by clicking on the Google or Facebook respectively and providing your client ID and client secret and saving it from here. So we have seen so far, that is it, how you can configure your tenant for self-service sign-up flows and add external identity providers. That's awesome. Now we are going to configure our next feature, which is also a really important feature to enable customization in your application, which is configuring user flows. So user flows are basically the steps a user would need to take to sign into your application. So let me just show you what exactly I'm talking about. For user flows, you need to click on your user flows plate on your left. And And here I have already configured a user flow for the purpose of this demo, but you can always go ahead and create a new user flow which is more relevant to your application. So let's just dive in. So this is an overview page for the user flow settings. These are the major sections we are talking about. The first is identity providers. What identity providers would you like to enable for your application? So Azure Active Directory sign up is by default enabled. We already configured Google and Facebook for our tenant. I can always go ahead and select them from here and save it. So this means whenever I'm going to use this particular user flow for my application would find or would be able to show options for sign up using Google and Facebook. So going back to the overview page here, this is the section of user attributes. So user attributes is the collection of information you would like to accept or take input from the user at the time of sign up. These are some of the basic information or user attributes I have enabled already for my user flow. You only need to click on some of these which are relevant for your application and save the application. So these are the set of the built-in user attribute which we provide by default to you. You can always go ahead and create your custom user attributes too very easily by just going to manage user attributes and clicking on add. And for example, if you have a supplier if you have a scenario where suppliers want to log into your application, you just need to create supplier ID and add some description. And just create. So you can always go back to the user flow and enable this custom attribute in your existing user flow from here. So you can see now the supplier ID and it shows that it's a custom attribute. So it makes it even easier for you to differentiate which ones were created by you and which ones were by default. So you just saw how I created a custom attribute. Going back to the overview page, you can see the rest of the options here. The next one is API connectors, which lets you enable custom APIs for your app. And rest of the options are for further customization, like how you want to keep the layout of your sign-in page and the languages you would like to enable for your sign-up form. So this is the overview of a user flow. These are the steps your customer would be taking or your collaborators would be taking in order to sign into your application. So now, once you have created this user flow, how would you go ahead and enable this in your application? So let's go ahead and see that. On your left-hand side, you will see the applications page. And you can see the add application option here. I'm going to search for my application, which I registered before, and going to select it from here. So that is it. Yeah, we just enable the user flow we created in our demo application. So we just saw how to configure user flows and add built-in and custom attributes and enable that user flow in your application. The next feature I'm going to show you will take the customization of your app to the next level. The feature I'm talking about is company branding. And using company branding, you can customize your sign-in page with your company logo and brand. Let's just see how you can customize the branding for your application. You need to move to your home page and go to the company branding options on your left-hand side. So here I have uploaded, for the purpose of this demo, a picture for the background image for my application and a banner logo. You can always go ahead and upload a relevant image for your banner logo and background image, whatever are your requirements for your application from here, and click on the save, and you're good to go. So great, we are done here. We enable self-service sign-up setting, configure the IDPs, user flows, and even customize the branding for your app. I mean, what else you could ask for? So I'm super excited to test and run this app and show you guys how this all would look like in your application. So let's just go back to our sample code. So here I am back in my sample application. I am going to run this application, and then we will see how this feature works end to end. Now I am going to go to localhost here. So this is how our home page looks like. And I'm going to sign in to show you guys how the sign-in flow works. So this is our first page, which is going to be exposed to your partners or collaborators. And you can see how my Wood Grove logo is popping up here. You can always use the company branding feature and use your company's logo or background image, however it is relevant for you. Now, the main option you can see is the create one option here, which will basically let your partners self-service sign up. So I'm going to sign up in this application. On this page, you can see your partners are going to be exposed with three main options, which is like email. They can sign in using their email ID or Google account or Facebook account. I'm going to go ahead and use my Google account. I'm going to use my existing Google ID here. And so this is the form I'm being exposed to. You can see the attributes which we created in the user flow option, all are listed here. The username is already being populated by Google itself. I am going to add my first name here, my last name, and my job title. And I'm going to continue. So no, I don't want to stay signed in. So this is the page. I just logged in using my Google identity here. So I'm going to show you guys how we configured our sample code with Microsoft Graph and Point to showcase some of the user attributes to our users, where I showcase the scenario of if you want to show your users some user profile data. So let's just go ahead and see my profile. And voila, you can see my first name, my last name, my title, and my email ID. So there you go. It's awesome. We just developed an app which can sign in your partners, collaborators anywhere from the world using Google or Facebook identities. You just made your app more accessible. You saw how you can register and configure the app with external identities and customize company branding in your app in just few simple steps, and that too without making any code changes. So our goal is that you just integrate once and customize continuously. Thanks.
As you've seen in the last demo, with the Microsoft Identity Platform and external identities, you can integrate once and customize continuously, creating the flexible, user-centric experiences that you want in your apps. Going forward, for all of your scenarios where you want to give access to partners in your applications, we want you to build with the Microsoft Identity Platform. That will enable you to use external identities in the self-service sign-up feature and easily reach users outside of your organization. You can get started today with our public preview in Azure Active Directory. What's up next for us is fully automating the creation of your external identities flows. You've seen in the demos that you can use APIs and automation to set up your Azure AD tenant for SelfService On Up. Soon, you'll be able to create and modify user flows via API, and you'll be able to enable your apps for sign up via API. You can learn more about these features by following the links below, where we link to our Microsoft Identity Platform documentation and external identities documentation, containing all the information you need to get started using these for your applications. We hope you will continue learning more about Microsoft 365 in our on-demand sessions, which you can see here on the screen. We also have live sessions that you can register and attend on the Microsoft Build webpage. Lastly, you can connect with our Azure Active Directory B2C product team in a community connections event on Wednesday, May 20th at 11:15 a.m. Pacific. There, you'll be able to engage with all of the Azure AD B2C product developers and get your questions answered. Thanks so much for watching our session, and we look forward to hearing all of your feedback on external identities.
Bye. Stay safe.